Jalen Marshall, and you're watching NYJFTV.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to our second installment of NYJFTV. I'm one of your hosts, Kevin Sirkin, and we have got an action-packed show set for you tonight. Joining us on the panel, a man who does a fantastic job covering the New York Jets for NJ.com, Connor Hughes, and former New York Jets wideout, a man who dropped a ton of knowledge last week. We're happy to have him back, Rob Carpenter. Now, before we get into the show, just a quick thank you to all the fans out there. All your feedback, all your support after our first show, we greatly appreciate it, so thank you guys for tuning in. Also, a big thank you to Brandon Marshall and Mike Westhoff, who gave us a couple minutes earlier in the week. You'll see those interviews later in the show, but for right now, it's all about training camp. So I gotta say, we're a week into training camp, and the two biggest off-the-field stories, Brandon Marshall's punt over the bleachers and Ryan Fitzpatrick's haircut. So it is all business at Florham Park. There are no distractions, and as a fan, I'm absolutely loving this. Do you get that same sense?
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I'll tell you what, that's kind of the field we've journeyed into, and two of the three stories I wrote about this week had nothing to do with football at all. So, I mean, yeah, it was good, though, man. I mean, it was all good-natured ribbing. Yep. You know, I mean, pretty much any player that spoke, there was a shot in there about Fitz's hair. So when he finally cut it, which actually turned out being a bet, I think that came out today when he did an interview with WFAN. He said that, like, the first defender that would intercept him or the next defender that intercepted him in practice would be able to, cut his hair, and it ended up being Justin Burris, and Burris buzzed his hair. And then the Marshall punt was just something where, it was frustrations. I mean, that was an ugly practice, undoubtedly. I mean, it was a bad practice, and Marshall, frustrated, picked up the ball and punted it.
And I kind of like that, too. I like that show of emotion that these guys want to improve. And so, Rob, from the player's perspective, how important is it to not just have that focus in on football right now, but you look at these guys, and it seems like they genuinely enjoy playing with one another. There's constant communication. How important is that?
That's very important. You can see the way it transpired from last season. Early on in the season, I think guys were actually just trying to feel their way around. The camaraderie was kind of there, but as the season went on and the guys started winning games and they felt like, we actually can do some things here, you saw it fester. It's on and off the field. So when you actually have that type of camaraderie with the guys, it makes the season a lot better. It makes practice a lot better because guys are going to hold each other accountable. And, it turns into winning games on Sundays.
Absolutely. And the guy who seems to be making it all work is Ryan Fitzpatrick. I admit that initially I was against, McCagnon raising the offer to $12 million. But when I watch him on the field now, he's earning every bit of that paycheck. You got three young quarterbacks on the roster, and he is constantly mentoring these guys. Hackenberg screws up. He goes right over to him. How important is it to have that kind of guy to lead the offense?
For a quarterback, leading a team like that, and when guys know that they can actually look forward to him making plays, it's really important. The defense is going to, they're one entity. They're going to do their own thing. But they actually look towards the quarterback on offense to actually lead the team itself. So, and when the guys on offense, you see Brandon, you see Eric Decker, you see the linemen. They're all, right behind Fitz. So, when you have a quarterback like that, that's going to be leading the team and taking accountability for himself and the things that he does, because when he knows he makes a mistake, he knows he's hurting the team itself. So when guys can actually look at him and he's saying to himself, my bad, I did that, I'll make it up, and he actually can go out and make it up, make a play here and there for the team itself, that's actually a great thing. And you see the teams that actually are the best teams in the league, they have quarterbacks that do that.
Now, Connor, what are some of the things that you've seen from the quarterbacks early on? Because it seems like Fitzpatrick and Geno have been stepping up, and then when it comes to Petty and Hackenberg, 1 minute they're making a nice throw, and you see why McCagnon drafted them. The next minute, it's just wow. balls 20 yards into the press. I mean, what are you seeing from these guys?
It's exactly how you just said. I mean, look, you've got Ryan Fitzpatrick, who is as Todd Bowles has called him and Mike McCagnon has called him, and for good reason, he's the starter. And when you throw the amount of touchdowns that he threw last year, and you get a team that was 4-12, and he had help, but still, when you're the quarterback and you lead the team to a 10-6 record, and you deserve that right to go in the next year as your starter, and he showed that. He's starting to knock off the rust. He's better. He was better today than he was the day before. It's a progression as he knocks off all that rust. But he looks like he's starting to regain the form that he had last year, and he looks like he's going to be the same quarterback, if not a little bit better, because he's comfortable again playing with Marshall and comfortable playing with Decker and all these new guys, and it looks like he's going to take that step forward. And Geno Smith looks like he picked up where he left off in camp last year. I mean, that's truthfully how he looks. He's been good. He's been solid. He's displaying the arm strength. But the thing with Geno Smith is that what he's doing now is what he's always done. And I hopped on the Jets beat Rex's last year, so I didn't see too much of training camp. But from talking to people that have seen Geno throughout his career, he's always been this light it up in camp, and then a game comes and he struggles. So he's more. You got to see him when the preseason comes. And if he got playing time in the regular season where he got to prepare as a starter, you can see that. But he is what he is. You got to see him in game if Fitzpatrick is what he is. The two young guys, as you mentioned, is where it's developmental. You see the flashes, you see the good, and then you see the bad, and that's part of being a young quarterback. And the hope is that eventually you see more good than bad, and on Thursday there will be more good than there was on Wednesday, and on Friday there's more on Thursday. And it really is just a process of going forward. Like, Bryce Petty at practice today, which is Thursday, he came out and he threw 3 touchdowns. So it was without a doubt the best I've seen Bryce Petty play in 2 years. He hit Jalen Marshall perfectly in his hands for a long touchdown. He hit Titus Davis on a post. I mean, the guy's starting to come together. So the thing is, with a quarterback like that, it could be a snap of the finger. Okay, now it clicked for him, and it's just about waiting for it to click. So the two young guys look like two young guys. They're not ready to play, but they're developing. And
that leads me to my next point, because you've got 4 quarterbacks on the roster, and there's a fine line between trying to develop these kids for the future, which they need to do. They need a quarterback of the future, but you also need to have depth on the roster this year. You need guys that can contribute on special teams. So if you're Mike McCagnon, how do you weigh those two options right now?
It's the $1 million question, man. You hit that one on the head. I'll tell you, if you know the answer to that, you should take my job, because I mean that's truthfully what it is. I mean, you've got 4 quarterbacks on the roster. Ideally, in today's NFL, you have teams that keep 2, so you got to figure out which one's going to go, or do you keep 4, which is rare. I mean, I can't remember. I think the Redskins very briefly kept 4 quarterbacks with like Pat White 2 years ago, a year ago, and then they cut him like 2 weeks into the season. So it's very rare that a team keeps 4 quarterbacks. So with the Jets, you got to decide, do you cut Geno Smith? Okay, you cut Geno Smith. You have no experience if Ryan Fitzpatrick gets hurt, which he's proven he does. You cut Bryce Petty. Well, then you're going into 2017 with only Christian Hackenberg under contract. You're obviously not going to cut Christian Hackenberg. You're obviously not going to cut Fitzpatrick. So what do? If you had asked me 2 months ago, I probably would have said, no, you cut Geno Smith and you roll with it. That's what you do. But you ask me now, and I'm kind of 60-40 in terms of cut Bryce Petty and keep 4 quarterbacks, because in a way the Jets have their hands tied a little bit, and that they don't have that luxury of, well, let's just keep 2, let's just keep 3. It's almost like they've got to keep the 4.
Yeah. Rob?
Well, I think during training camp, it's going to play itself out. If most of the guys stay healthy, it's going to be a tough deal, because if you keep 4, that means you're stealing from another position, especially for special teams depth. And I think Todd Bowles has made it clear that special teams is going to be a priority this year. So there's going to be guys that are on the team basically specifically for special teams. So keeping 4 quarterbacks with looking at the depth on special teams is going to be tough. But again, if injuries start to happen, that's going to play a part in if they actually be able to keep 4 quarterbacks or not.
Now, Connor, you brought up a name that has just been absolutely stealing the headlines so far early in camp. That's Jalen Marshall. This kid looks every bit the real deal. Now, I try not to get too excited, because we're a week into camp, and we've seen this before with guys like David Clowney and Ryan Spadola. I mean, the list goes on of Jet wide receivers that have shined in camp and then done nothing. But you look at the offense last year, 26 of the 31 touchdowns to Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker. Mm-hmm. There's clearly a need for some other guys to be able to step up in this offense. What have you seen from not only Jalen Marshall, but Quincy Enunwa, Jason Morrow. It seems like these guys are having a pretty good camp so far.
Yeah, Jalen, I would probably temper the expectation a little bit, just in the sense of, like, you got to think he's an undrafted rookie. He has looked really good. I mean, he really has, and he's in 2 weeks into camp. He's shown enough to make you start saying it. Maybe I'll put him on that 53-man roster because he's got the experience in the slot and on the outside, kick return, punt return, and I saw him working a little bit as a gunner too. So he's trying to be able to do everything to make the team. But as an offensive contributor, it's probably not going to happen this year. He might be a guy that catches 20 balls, 15, 20 balls, sporadically sees some playing time, but won't be a difference maker. The difference maker, and I heard his name talked about a ton, and I kind of was like, all right, let's slow it a little bit, and that was Quincy.
Yeah.
And seeing him now in training camp, those expectations, I'm starting to say, you know what, yeah, you're right. Like, maybe he should be put in that class of, wow, he could break out, because the guy has looked good. I mean, and the thing that's different in the way the Jets used Quincy in 2015 to now in training camp is that he is their wide receiver. I mean, he is not an H-back. He's not a tight end right now. 85 to 90% of his snaps are coming out of the slot. So they have Eric Decker split wide. They have Brandon Marshall split wide. And then they have Quincy Enunwa now in the slot. And Quincy's looked good. I mean, I think the biggest thing that has really stood out for me is his route running is crisper and cleaner. But more than anything else is his hands. I mean, you can tell he's been working on it every day after practice. He's over by the jugs machine catching 100 balls. So you can tell he's been putting the time in on his hands, and it's starting to show. I mean, it's sticking almost to a point. And as a receiver, like, you can see, like, the good wide receivers there have the soft hands. You don't really hear it popping and stuff. That's what he's got. Like, the ball's throwing a rocket at him, and you don't really hear it. He just catches it. And that wasn't what it was in the past, because he usually struggled with his hands. So he's taken another step forward. He's really starting to develop, and he's a guy that I believe will step up into that third option outside of Marshall and Decker is Quincy, because he really has a good camp, or has had a good camp.
With him, I'm expecting a lot from him this year, to be honest with you, because the way he came on last year, being put basically in that H-back setting just to compensate for the lack of a tight end, I think it was a little discomfort for him early in the season, and then as you saw the season go on, he got a little more comfortable. Fitz got a little more comfortable with him, but this year, I think the comfort level is there, so it probably helps him out a whole lot, where he's not thinking a lot anymore. He's just reacting to everything that's going on the field. He hears a play, goes out and does it. Fitz feels comfortable with him. The rest of the guys feel comfortable with him out there. You can see the coaching staff feels comfortable with him. So he'll probably be one of the guys that steps up to be the third guy, or the fourth guy as far as catches go this season. It's probably going to be, of course, Marshall and Decker 1 and 2, and then if Forte gets healthy, he'll probably be the third guy, and then Quincy will probably be that fourth guy. And with the rest of the guys on the roster, like going back to a guy like Jalen Marshall, he'll probably get spot time, but for the most part during camp, he'll be working with Gino or with Hack or Bryce Petty. The comfort level with Fitz won't exactly be there right away. Yep. So, when those guys actually get into the games, Fitz won't exactly be looking their way right away, because he's not really comfortable and won't be too sure about how he will react. So, you can temper that to a point. You can say, he'll make the team. He'll probably contribute some on special teams, but he won't be a really big contributor as far as receiver go, because the comfort level is just not there yet.
Yeah, and that's definitely where he's going to earn his roster spot, whether or not he could step up as a punt returner, as a kick returner, and just overall, this offense, it has to feel that it's going to be much different from last year, where it's not going to be so heavily focused on Eric Decker and Brandon Marshall, but you got the versatility out of the backfield with Bilal Powell, Matt Forte, and now you got Jason Morrow coming back. Quincy Enunwa takes the next step. You got so many options in this offense, so it's going to be fun to watch this season.
It should be. Hopefully, Jace, stays healthy, and he can contribute a little more. It's just like you just said, it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. So let's shift over to the defensive side of the ball, and the first thing that has stuck out to me for the few practices that I've been there is just the speed. Now, do you think that's more of a combination of just the added youth at linebacker, or is it these guys just having a comfort in Todd Bowles and Casey Rogers' system in year 2?
It's probably a combination of both. I mean, the Jets did make it a goal to go out there and get faster. I mean, they've made it known, and Todd Bowles has made it known that they need to get faster, they need to get faster, they need to get faster. And they have. I mean, they've added players that are quicker, and they've gotten rid of some guys that were slower. But it's also that comfort level, I think. And you can probably attest to this a little bit more than I can, but it seems like a lot of the guys out there are no longer really thinking. They're out there doing. And
Yep.
I remember I talked to Sheldon Richardson today, and I actually talked to Jarvis Jenkins yesterday, and I asked them, like, what their first impressions are of this defense now in year 2. And what both of them said is that this is a defense that isn't necessarily predicated on thinking or assignments. It's about attacking. It's attack.
Love that.
And Sheldon said that's what he loves about it. And Jarvis said that's why he wanted to come and play for the Jets, was because the defense is so predicated on get up the field and get after the guy and go make a play. I mean, that's what they want to do. And I think that's what you're seeing these guys on the field just saying, I'm going to go make a play. And you play assignment football, and you have to play your assignment. You can't just go run around and freelance the entire time.
Yep.
But the defense puts the players in position to make plays, and then it's up to the player to make that play. And I think that's what you're seeing is that, yes, the Jets did get faster, but it's also a little bit of the system putting their guys in the position to do it.
I spoke to you a little bit off air about this same thing.
Exactly.
As I was saying off air, when you have guys like Lee, Jenkins, those guys, young guys coming into this type of defense, for them, it's going to get to the point where they're not thinking about anything other than what they have to do. So when they get that comfort level of saying, okay, they hear the call, they know where to line up, they see who's in front of them, they know exactly what they have to do, and then they could just, pin their ears back and just go do it, make a play. Be an athletic guy, do what Todd Bowles says, just go make a play. You'll see Leonard Williams this year, he's not going to be thinking. He's just going to be reacting to everything. And from what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, everything about camp going so far, that's exactly what he's doing. He's pretty much just dragging everybody right along with him and saying, look, it's my second year in this. I'm comfortable with everything every call now. I know exactly what to do. And the rest of the guys, that have been in it with him, they're doing exactly the same thing. So, the defense this year with the young guys and the speed that's there, once they get comfortable with everything and their assignments and everything, pretty much look out, man, because these guys are going to be flying around. The balls are just going to be all over the place.
Yeah, and I'm sure they still have a long way to go. But, I watched Jordan Jenkins early on, and, we heard the reports that he would be a guy that could stuff the run, he would set the edge, maybe get after the quarterback a little bit. But he even looks pretty comfortable in coverage so far. And then you look at a guy like Darren Lee, who, just 4.4 speed, in the open field, a guy that can cover, we could finally cover the wheel route, for a change, which would be awesome. What are these guys going to be able to bring right away? Because you have Lee right now behind Aaron Henderson. You got Jordan Jenkins, who's been getting a lot of the first team reps. What can we expect from them early on?
Jenkins will be your starter. I mean, Jenkins, that's pretty much what we've seen. We're in now to week 2 of training camp, and every single first team rep in the nickel defense and the base defense has been given to Jenkins. I mean, he is your outside linebacker, and he's shown versatility. I mean, he's shown a little bit of ability to rush the passer. He wasn't asked really to rush the passer in college, which is why he only had, I think it was like 4 or 5 sacks, something like that. So, I mean, he wasn't asked to rush it, though. I remember talking to him, and he said, Connor, what I did was my job was to eat up blocks, and that's what I did because that was my job. And he was fine doing it, and he's a hard-nosed guy. He just loves playing football, and so he would do whatever the coach asked him to. And now that he's in a defense where he's got more free range to go rush the passer, I think you'll see him rush the passer a little bit more. As far as Lee, he, at least thus far in camp, has been working primarily with the second team. The Jets have their 2 starting middle linebackers, and that's Aaron Henderson and David Harris. They're going to be the starters going forward. But Lee will work in certain packages and certain game plans. When the Jets play a team like the Patriots, who love to throw and love to dink and dunk and throw 70% of the time, Lee's going to play a lot. Mm-hmm. If they play a team like the Dallas Cowboys of a couple years ago with DeMarco Murray, where they ran it 500 times, Lee's probably not going to see the field too much because he's going to be off for the bigger guys to go stop the run. So it's going to be a wait-and-see thing with Lee as he develops. Lee might not be the starter until next year, but Jenkins is going to be a guy that's on the field 80% of the time this coming season. Now,
with so much of the attention, getting brought up with the front seven, I've been focusing a lot on the back end because there's a couple guys that I've been keeping an eye on. One, D. Milner, a guy that if he can finally stay healthy, I would love to see him grab this number 2 corner spot. Kid's got all the talent in the world. And not only that, I would love to see Buster Screen and Marcus Williams kind of remain in their roles from last year. So you got him, and then a guy that kind of goes under the radar a little bit that nobody really talks about, Marcus Gilchrist. He's the glue back there in the secondary. He's making all the calls, almost like the Jim Leonard of Rex Ryan's defense. These are 2 guys that I'm really looking forward to seeing step up this year.
Gilchrist is the undercover guy.
Yep.
He's the guy back there, like you just said. He's making all the calls. He's making sure everybody's in the right place. He's that guy that nobody's going to talk about, but he's going to be steady. He's going to keep everything, on a straight and narrow. As far as the corners go, me personally, I've always liked Marcus Williams. Always. I just like the way the guy makes plays. I like the way he covers. You rarely see him guess wrong. You can tell he's in the film room studying everything that has to go with the other team that they're facing. D. Milner, like you just said, has to stay healthy. All the talent in the world. If he can stay healthy and stay on the field, he'll be making plays. But, you know, Screen is another guy that's going to be in there making plays. If somebody goes down, he can fill in. You know, the talent is there for defensive backfield. And it's just an exciting look for this team right now where you see the front seven and what they have and what they can do. And then you look behind them and you see the talent that's there and what these guys can do. Hopefully, you know, this year with the talent that's on the field, things transpire into turnovers and, you know, more scores for the defense. But, you know, the way it's looking right now, man, I'm just pretty excited about the way the defense is looking. And, you know, again, the D-backs, if everybody can stay healthy, it's going to be a pretty fun time to look at.
Connor, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you've got they're set up pretty well because, I mean, Rivas was officially back today, so we got a chance to see what the actual defense looks like, the secondary, and they really, really like the idea of you put Rivas on one side and Screen on the other side when they're in base, and then when they go to nickel is when Screen goes into the slot, and then Marcus Williams comes in, and that's their three corners. D, though, this camp so far has made play after play after play. I mean, he's come up with an interception. I mean, he had another forced fumble today where he just popped the ball out of the guy's hand. So, I mean, he's looking good to force his way on the field. The thing is, though, is as good as he's looking to force his way on the field, the other two guys haven't done anything to be taken off the field. So,
true.
I mean,
That's
and look, it's a hell of a problem to have.
It's a great problem to have,
you know
absolutely.
what I mean? So it's progressing, it's moving forward. But, you know, the Jets have a very it's a golden situation for them because, you know, like you said, it's not just that they have a solid secondary. It's not just they have the pass rush. They've got the solid defensive front to put pressure on the quarterback, which makes the secondary's job easier. But the secondary can also cover these guys long enough to make the defensive line's job easier. So it's all progressing and coming together. Exactly.
I did it at my desk.
I did it in the cockpit, circling Atlanta at 30,000 feet.
I did it on the conference room table, in front of my boss, who's my mom.
Why draft your fantasy football team at work when you can have an awesome draft party at Hooters? Choose Hooters for your fantasy draft party. Every league gets a draft kit worth up to $200 in freebies. Book now at Hooters.com/football.
Hey, what's up, everybody? NYJetsFans.com is proud to announce a new partnership with Hooters, inspired by our friends at Tucson, Arizona. We will be featuring a whole bunch of food and drink specials for every Jets home game on Sundays, so definitely be sure to check that out. Joining us in the studio right now is Carrie from the Hooters in Paramus. What's going on?
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing very good. So, Carrie, how long have you been a Jets fan?
I've been a Jets fan for a few years. I got to say, I did come up from Florida, so originally I was a Jaguars fan, but I moved up here and I couldn't resist the green.
All right, well, at least you made the change. Jet fans are proud to hear that. So, who is your favorite player on the Jets right now?
Right now, I'd have to say it's Brandon Marshall because he's one of the top receivers in the league, and I think he can carry us into the playoffs this year.
She knows her stuff. That's awesome. Now, tell me, what is it like on a Sunday at Hooters?
It's a packed house. We already have some fantastic deals on Sundays for games. And now if you go to the website, you can get even better deals as a Jets fan, especially if you're wearing your Jets gear when you come in.
That is awesome to hear. So, last thing, how excited are you to make Hooters the home for New York Jet fans on Sundays?
Well, I'm a New York Jet fan, and Hooters has already been my home on Sundays, but it's going to be a lot better to see a lot more green in there. Kind of like box out the Giants fans a little bit, you know.
There we go. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Thanks so much.
All right. Our field reporter Tyson Roush was able to catch up with former New York Jets special teams coordinator Mike Westhoff regarding the current state of special teams in the NFL.
Okay, we're here with Coach Mike Westhoff after another hot practice in the field
Inside,
house.
huh?
So, Coach, first of all, how are you doing? You know, you're retired, but you're not retired because you're doing all this work and staying in the game.
Yeah, it's fun. I have fun doing it. You know, I do a radio show with ESPN. We're going to do on Sunday mornings. And, you know, NFL talk, mostly New York stuff, although we do cover some of the things in the league, kind of Jets and Giants. I'm more emphasis with the Jets, although I do get involved some a little bit with the Giants. And then SMY.
Which you're great on. So tell you right now, fans love you. You are a fan favorite by far, and you never pull any punches.
I have fun doing it. I don't think I'm overly critical because I respect both the players and the coaches, and I respect the game. So I don't believe that I'm not ever going to make fun of anybody, but at the same time, I think I'm not afraid to be honest, because there are things that are critical. I was very critical of myself, and I'm not afraid to kind of point it out, things and so I try to be honest, but I have fun and I enjoy it, and I am very respectful, because I think, it's such a rare person that can play in the National Football League. Right. It's such a high level of ability that it takes. So I really respect that in all aspects, and I know it's so physical, and they get beat up, they get tired, and they get beat. And I think sometimes we forget that.
Right.
And it is a violent game. I think the NFL's done a great job of trying to protect the players, but yet this is a tough sport.
Right.
This is. I used to have a sign in my office that said, the men play on Sundays. And I thought that was kind of a mantra that I wanted to live by and remember that.
Right.
This is not the game they play on Saturday. I love college football, but this is the real deal.
We're big fans of yours, but you're honest, you break down the game great. And the one thing, obviously, special teams is your thing, and we have a new coach in place here, and watching him today, he is fiery.
Yeah,
he is like, we're going to do it again, we'll be here all day.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on just the change of the special teams and how they're being played?
It's number one with Brant Boyer. I know him very well. He used to play for me.
Right.
I helped scout him when he was at the University of Arizona. We drafted him at the Miami Dolphins when I was with Coach Shula. And then Jimmy let him go. Jimmy Johnson let him go, and he went up to Jacksonville and had a very nice career. So I talk with him often, and he is kind of a fiery guy. I like the fact that he played. He's gone through it. He's worked his way up through the system.
Right.
And I like that. I think that's advantageous. But that's the good news. The bad news is special teams in general.
Yeah.
It's just, they've made a number of rule changes. I was involved in some of them. I with Mike Pereira and I were the ones that took the guy off lining up on the center for field goals and PATs, and I was involved in a number of them. So there are some safety factors that which you want to be cognizant. But at the same time, don't throw the play out.
Right.
Find a way to adjust. I'm actually very much in favor of shrinking the goalposts just a little bit.
Really?
I'm very much in favor of it. I'd like to shrink them 1 yard, 1.5 feet on each side.
Okay.
That's all. I also would like to create a kicking hash, halfway between the NFL hash and the college hash.
Okay.
So if the ball's on the hash, and you're going to kick the field goal, you move it out just a little. So what you create is a slightly narrower target from a slightly wider angle. That'll take the percentage back to around 82, 83, 84, where it belongs. I don't want to make it stupid.
Right.
I just want to make it a little challenging. Not a lot, just a little bit. And so that's the kind of thing that I'm concerned with. They've reduced the number of kickoffs dramatically, kickoff and kickoff returns.
Right.
And that'll even be more so with the new rule this year, which will state that you can, after a touchback, the ball comes to the 25.
Right.
I know there's a lot of people that it's all bravado, it's like a movie, where what was it, True Grit, where the guy yelled at John Wayne, brave talk for a one-eyed fat man. And, well, he actually could back it up, my man. You better be careful who you're talking to.
Right.
So the guys are saying, "Oh, we're going to kick it in the corner." No, you're not.
Right.
You're going to kick a touchback.
Yep.
You're kidding.
You're not fooling anybody.
You don't have the great coverage team anymore. The way the rosters are configured today, these guys that were just career special teams players that, God bless me, I had them here.
Yep.
You don't have as many today.
Right.
I want to kick off from the 25-yard line. Move it back 10 yards.
Okay.
All right? I'll keep the coverage team the same, 5-5, 5-yard run. Then you have a 10-yard restraining line.
Okay.
In the next 10 yards, I want the return team to line up 9 guys.
Okay.
Now you have to change one rule. If the kickoff would travel over the 50 on the fly, the return team could get away from it, treat it like a punt, and get the ball back.
Right.
If you don't, you'll have a million little bloopers.
Right. Try to beat the system. Right.
And what you've done is you've eliminated the 40-yard run and collision, and now you've made it like a 10-yard.
Right.
So you've kind of turned the violent kickoff return into sort of a punt return. I mean, I'm very proud that my time with the New York Jets, we actually at different times, we had 9 different guys that led the National Football League in returns.
Yep.
And I know how that helped us when we went to the playoffs. I mean, you spend all day trying to convince me that if Brad Smith doesn't run that kickoff return opening one for a touchdown against the Pittsburgh Steelers, if we win that game, and the next thing you know, we're back there playing in the AFC Championship game. It was the thing that I loved is that I felt that I was a viable piece of the puzzle. And that's all I ever wanted as a coach, to be a viable contributor. That we had guys that could make a difference, and that it helped your team win the game. Did it win it? Yeah, I used to act like it won it, but I'm cocky enough to do that. But I know that it was just a part of it. It helped. It made a difference. You had to, a young guy would come in, and he would develop as a player. That learned blocking, tackling, running. Because you don't automatically step in and become the starting linebacker.
Right.
You work your way up.
Through special teams, right?
Well, now these are non-plays. You run down the field, there's no play.
Our last question for you is, what is your impression of the coaching staff now? 1 year in, Todd Bowles, all these guys.
It seems good. I like his practice tempo. I like it. I don't like the training camp schedule today. I think the collective bargaining agreement.
With the one a day, you mean?
I think they need to totally readdress it. When you get to one a day, when you're doing that, the practices get way too long.
Okay.
I think at the end of practice, you see fatigue set in, and this is where the fatigue injuries come.
Yeah.
The pulled hamstring, the strained
saw that
quad,
today,
et cetera, et cetera. What I would do, I would go back to the 2 a day. I would go 1 a day, 2 a day, 1 a day, 2 a day.
Right.
No consecutive practices could ever be in pads, in shorts or whatever, and no practice can ever go over an hour and 30 minutes. Now, you could do that and alternate and keep them fresh,
right,
and still get everything in. Whereas now you're trying to jam it into this one session and then teach everything off of film.
Right.
I would put more pressure on practicing at a higher tempo. I like having a couple practices for the fans.
Yeah.
Let them come to practice.
Yep.
Let them see it.
Yeah.
We used to, the place was packed.
Yep.
It
I
was
agree.
fun.
Yep.
I never had a period of my special teams ever that was longer than 12 minutes. Ever. Never. Most of mine were 8. But not for those 8 minutes.
You went at it.
Yeah, those 8 minutes. Now you better pull your shoes up. For those for 8 minutes, now your ass was going all over the field. And I was not going to be walking around where I'd say, well, yeah, we'll watch it on film. I'm going to tell you right now.
Well, Coach, first of all, thank you very much. On behalf of Jet fans, everywhere you go, anything happens on special teams, they talk about you. It's always, we want Westhoff back, we want Westhoff back, and then you're on SNY. Everybody waits to hear your opinions of what's going on with the team. So, first of all, on behalf of Jet fans, thank you, because you do an awesome job with our coaching, with everything. So we want to thank you, and thank you for your time today.
Nah, you're welcome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for asking.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to take a couple of questions from the fans. You guys have been firing away on Twitter. We're going to take about 3 or 4 right now. We had so many, but we're only going to get to a couple of them right now. The first one is from the Yankee John. And he highlights if they can remain healthy, does this group of players realistically possess the talent to go 4-2 or 5-1 through the first 6 games of the season?
Oh boy. If everybody's healthy and they play to the best and they play to their top ceiling of this is, man, we're going to come out. I could see them going 500 in the first 4. I could see them going 2-2, stretching it out to 5 games. Maybe they go 3-2. I could see that. I don't think they'll go 4-1 or 3-1. I mean, that's a brutal stretch to start that year. I mean, I think they can beat the Bengals, but after that, it's a tough grind.
Rob?
I actually kind of feel the same way. 3-2, first 5. 4-2 is a stretch, but crazier things have happened. So, but if these guys are healthy going into the season and can stay healthy for the first 4 or 5 games, I can see them actually being 3-2 after 5 games.
Okay. Yeah, I just keep saying, like, everyone's talking about the teams that we have to face, but they should be scared about facing us in this defense that we got. So,
it's the same. Every week is a grind in the NFL. So, as long as you stay healthy and the team, if Fitz can actually keep the turnovers down, that's going to be the main thing.
Yep. All right, our next question is from NY Jets fans only. Will Brandon Marshall's weight loss lead to even better statistics this season, or could it potentially hurt his game?
He looks faster.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks really, really good this camp. I mean, that's undone. I mean, he looks like truly a faster wide receiver, and he hasn't lost too much of the build. I don't know if it'll contribute to a better season because I'm not sure how much.
Tough to top 109 catches.
Yeah, right. I mean, 109, 1,500 yards for. I don't know how much better he can get, especially because he's getting older. So I think he'll remain about the same. I mean, I don't know I really don't think Brandon Marshall is going to have those numbers because I don't know if the Jets are going to go to him as much with some of these other younger weapons out there. Because Matt Forte is going to take some touches away, and Quincy and Jason and some of these other guys are going to take touches away from him. But I don't think it'll hurt him at all. I mean, he's still going to be as dominant as he was last year, even if his statistics don't match.
It's not going to hurt. He hasn't lost any strength. He's just lost the weight. And one thing it may contribute to is bigger plays, though. The speed that he can, accomplish with the loss of weight
Good point. Yep.
may contribute to, plays of 40, 50 yards down the field where it's just him one-on-one with the guy and he can use his strength to get away and that speed to run away from some guys now. Even at his age, the loss of weight is just going to help. It's not going to hurt.
Awesome. All right, we're going to take 2 more. Next is from Nick's Jets for Life. Of these 4, who is ready to make the biggest jump this year? D. Milliner, Jay Samaro, Lorenzo Malden, or Leonard Williams?
Ooh. I'll probably say I think it'll be Lorenzo Malden, and I only say Lorenzo Malden because he's going to be on the field most of the time, if not every single play. Leonard's going to be rotating in and out. D is a guy that's a little bit behind. Jace is kind of a big question mark. Lorenzo's the starter and will be on the field every play. And not to mention, he's playing right next to Sheldon or Mo or Leonard, which is going to eat up probably 1 to 2 blocks, which is allowing him guaranteed single blocking. I think he'll probably have that true breakout just because he's going to be given more opportunities. But it's a heck of a group of young guys there that you mentioned.
I feel the same way. Molden is probably that guy to be the breakout guy. I think Leonard is just going to be solid as he was last. Well, I'm not going to say solid as he was last year. He'll be better this year, but the breakout guy is probably going to be Malden if he can actually stay healthy for the whole season.
I got to disagree with you guys. I got to say Leonard Williams on that one, man. If you look at the number of quarterback hits that he had last year, just, a split second late getting to the quarterback, I got a feeling this year that's going to lead to so many more sacks. He's just going to be a quick, just a little bit faster. He's actually going to get there this time. So we'll see. We'll see. And the last question, got to give some love to our friends at Let's Talk Jets Radio. How much playing time would you give Christian Hackenberg in the preseason, considering his limited reps thus far in camp?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know why you play Fitz much in the preseason. I would give him a series. You know what you have with Fitzpatrick. The guy's 33 years old. You saw him last year. It's not like he needs the preseason time. You give him a series, a game to get a little rhythm down and his chemistry with the wideouts, but mostly that's built in camp. After that, you got 3 quarters and you got 3 more quarterbacks. So, you've got 4 quarters, 4 quarterbacks on the roster. Give a quarter to everybody. I think more than anything else is what you've got in Fitzpatrick. Essentially a little bit what you've got in Geno Smith and that he is the best option to back him up. You don't know what you got in Petty. You don't know what you've got in Hackenberg. Yep. So you got to see, does Hackenberg play better than a lot of people expected? And then you can go and say, maybe he can be our number 3, and then you cut Bryce Petty. Or you go and you see Bryce Petty tears it up, and then you say, okay, we got to keep him on the roster. Or maybe we trade him and some QB needy team grabs him. So the preseason is not a need for Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's a need a little bit for Geno because he hasn't played much lately, absent 2 quarters in Oakland. But it's going to be – I would give him a lot of playing time. I would give him at least a quarter a game and probably more. But I would also just probably not play Fitzpatrick. If Fitzpatrick a series a game, and then keep him out.
For the most part, he is going to get playing time. The way the preseason works, the starters really don't play a whole lot first 2 games. The 3rd game is the game where that's the tune-up game. To jump into the season. But for the most part, Geno, Hack, and Petty will probably get most of the snaps in all 4 games this year, except for that 3rd game, where the starters will probably go till halftime. And then after that, they'll call it quits, and you won't see hardly any starters in the 4th preseason game. It'll be all Geno, Hack, and Petty. But Hack is going to get his snaps in. First game, second game.
The only thing that I worry about a little bit with getting Hackenberg so much playing time is that you still have other positions that you have to evaluate on the offense. And if Hackenberg is throwing the ball all over the place like we've seen a little bit in camp, how do you truly evaluate the wide receivers that are on the bubble and some of the other positions as well? So.
Film doesn't lie.
That's true. That's true.
When you go into a session, it's not only just evaluating the quarterback and how he reacts to different things. The film will tell you how everyone is reacting to different plays on the field and to certain situations. So, if you see a bad pass by a quarterback, it's not necessarily always the quarterback's fault. Receiver could have ran the wrong route, and the film won't tell you. Watching the game as a fan won't tell you that. When you get into the film room, that'll tell that, and that'll tell the coaches. So, you can evaluate every player in every situation, even though, you know, the backups are playing.
Early in the week, we had a chance to catch up with Jets wide receiver Brandon Marshall at Champ Sports in Brooklyn as he promoted his new rap song Baller Alert with Quavo and T.I.
Everybody, I'm here with New York Jets All-Pro wideout Brandon Marshall. Brandon, 4 days in the training camp on the top bowl side. How you feeling, man?
I feel great, bro. I mean, I feel amazing. I feel like I'm 24. Joints is feeling amazing. I'm recovering fast. The team looks good. We're in a good place.
Awesome. You excited to be back with Fitz?
I am, man. I think everyone knows how important he is to our team, and he's already shown that 4 days in the camp.
Awesome, man. Now, one of the things that Jet fans love about you is not just what you do on the field, but what you do off the field. Can you tell everybody a little bit about your foundation, Project 375?
It's simple, bro. Where we're at today is where the cancer and HIV community was 20, 25 years ago in the mental health community. So we need to do two things. One, raise awareness and break the stigma. And number two, we need to connect our kids with something tangible. So we're working hard with our local high schools to be able to leave our kids with technology that they can connect with someone right away.
That's awesome, man. We're going to have a big event coming up with Project 375, week 2, a viewing party, Jets Bills at Reg in Carlstadt. You got a message for the Jets fans coming out?
Hey, have a good time, man. Enjoy the victory.
Awesome, man. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to our second episode of NYJFTV. Also, a big thank you to Rob and Connor for coming out. Can you tell the fans where they can reach you at?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Connor_J_Hughes, and then on Facebook at Connor Hughes NFL.
And Rob?
And you guys know me. I'm at Rob Carpenter 81.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. And we'll see you next time.